So the Hillary Clinton war emails are being published through WikiLeaks. If you pay attention to these kinds of things, and you know where to look, it's kind of let's just read this. Okay, this is so interesting to analyze from so many different perspectives. So if they release the emails through WikiLeaks, does that reduce it to a conspiracy theory? On the other hand, if the emails are actually used to prosecute, which so many claim is impossible, then is this itself a part of the show trial, or is it actually just reduced to an act of personal revenge? Another reason why I don't want to vote for Hillary Clinton, or why I wouldn't if I lived in the United States, is because of the way that she's treated the Assange issue. I think it's extremely fascistic. So I'm normally all about the evidence, right? But I have to leave space open for the value of speculation. We have such a deficit of evidence. I mean, if empiricism is supposed to be about the idea that you can better understand the world around you by measuring it than by imagining it, that presupposes an ability to measure things. Can you blame the ancients for their astronomical theories when they didn't have the ability to measure? They didn't have telescopes like we do today, right? It's empiricism relies on the tools of empiricism, which is why the uncertainty principle and the general crux of quantum theory is such a threat to empiricism, right? I understand the era that I live in. We may be entering, or we may have entered a period of post-empiricism sometime in the 1930s. If you're still pushing empiricism, you're a little out of touch, right? But that doesn't mean that we need to go back to making things up, right? What it means is that you have to understand the limits of empiricism. And one of the limits of empiricism is that it doesn't do you any good if you can't build any evidence, right? And so there's no contradiction in upholding evidence when it's available and returning to the imagination when it's not. When specifically, what's the test? Well, when the other option is there isn't any evidence, and we're stuck with inferences and guesses, right? I don't understand why the administration will let this drag on as long as it has, if it always intended to stifle it. That doesn't necessarily mean the administration is sabotaging the run. It could also mean that the administration has less control over state machinations than might be commonly imagined. If the Democratic Party had control over this, it would have been shut down already. And you can be sure of that. Okay, if there was as much control by the party bosses as we like to imagine, then this wouldn't exist at all. And so we wouldn't have, a talk about whether or not the administration is sabotaging the run. We just wouldn't talk about it at all. So I'm inclined to push back against the idea that there can be no indictment. If there could be no indictment, then there would be no investigation. If there was an investigation, then there may be an indictment. This is something that's happening. So the question is who it is that's orchestrating it. And the whole WikiLeaks angle makes it look like a setup, right? Whenever another organization that gets used a lot in the propaganda is, and that I have no question at all, is essentially a psyop, is anonymous, right? And so that's the question, right? It's which of these organizations represent real kind of pushback from real people, and which are imaginary psyops. I don't think Anonymous is any more real than Al-Qaeda is. And WikiLeaks is in a really gray area. Is this a real pushback? Are these real leaks, etc.? Or, see, and again, that doesn't mean that Clinton's in on it. That doesn't mean that Clinton knows what's happening, right? In fact, I think that the email scandal itself is demonstrating that she may not know what's happening. and that may be, kind of a part of the issue, right? I've spent a lot of time talking about how when Trump talks, he makes it clear that he hasn't been briefed, right? Although I guess he's been getting better CIA briefings nowadays, right? A lot of the stupid things that he said have kind of dried up a little bit, or he's presenting them in a different light because he's being educated, right? But Clinton seems to. She's been briefed for a longer period of time. That doesn't mean she really knows what's going on, right? Because who briefs her? Well, it's the intelligence agencies that tell her, and so it's the intelligence agencies that decide what they want to tell her. And if they decide they don't want to tell her certain things, then she's not going to know them, right? And again, she doesn't know what it is that they're deciding, and all these sorts of things, right? So, if there was a deep state takedown of Hillary Clinton, I would expect them to use all of the tools that they have at their disposal, and WikiLeaks may very well be one of them. I'm not saying that WikiLeaks is one of them. I'm saying that the nature of WikiLeaks is a little bit more ambiguous, and it's not entirely clear. If this was anonymous, then I'd be like, yeah, this is a state, because I know anonymous is, or at least the way that anonymous is used is by always, right? And I'm drawing a blank right now, but there's lots of other sorts of organizations, quote unquote, that are really just fronts for CIA psyops, right? They do this, right? It's not. Okay, so if you go and you call up the professor at the university, right, and you ask them, they will tell you that yes, it is true that the United States runs psychological operations designed to manipulate public opinion, both inside and out the country. That's not contentious. That the United States does this. The question is what things it is that we see in front of us that are this and which aren't, right? So we know that the CIA plants stories. That's something the CIA does. So the question is this story planted or not? And so when you look at a specific story, you need to look at that, you need to analyze it, right? If you're taking the position that the CIA never plants stories, then you're empirically wrong, right? You're just ignorant of the way that the media works, right? And so we know that there are CIA operatives inside the media. And so the question is who it is and who it isn't. If you're taking the position that nobody that works in the media is working for the CIA, then you're just ignorant. You're empirically wrong, right? Of course, one of the things that the media does is, in order to try to hide the fact that there are CIA operatives in the media, is it tries to, that's a conspiracy theory, that's outside the realm of discourse. But, like I say, if you're educated on the topic, you know that is itself just a distraction technique, right? And again, like I say, call up the guy at the university, or the guy can be gender non-specific. Okay, call up the professor at the university, and ask them, and they'll tell you, right? Ask the media experts that have published books, and they'll tell you. This is reality, right? So like I said, so the question isn't if there are psyops. There are psyops. We know there are psyops. This has been published. It's been leaked. The question is, what are the psyops? For me, like I say, I have no question that Anonymous is a psyop. To me, that's completely obvious. There's no ambiguity at all. WikiLeaks is a little more. I kind of lean towards it, but not certain about it. And in the sense that it may be, the conflict that's been happening between WikiLeaks and Clinton is a conflict between Clinton and the deep state, right? Again, just because you acknowledge that there are psyops doesn't mean that every politician is a process of them, or every politician is aware of them, right? I'm taking a lot of hypotheses here, but I think it's a lot more grounded than a lot of people want to acknowledge. And if you do start seeing this, you start seeing this sort of kind of attack on all angles, then you should be, as I am, you should be looking at that as flags going off and saying, wait a second, what's going on here? Is the deep state trying to take down Hillary Clinton? That's what I'm trying to figure out.